We are looking at solving proportions in today's video. I'm going to use a couple different methods for problem 1 and problem 2. For problem 1, I need to find the value of a. 6 over a equals 3 over 8. So what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to try to find some sort of relationship in my proportion. And right away I can see that, okay, 3 times 2 will get me 6. The same thing has to apply to the denominator of this fraction as well. If this is a proportion, then that relationship has to be the same. So I can say, okay, a is equal to whatever 8 times 2 is. Since 3 times 2 is 6, then 8 times 2 is going to give me my missing value. So that gives me a value of 16. This is definitely the quickest method. If you have whole number factors and multiples that you can find, okay, if you don't, that can present a little bit more of a challenge. If you have a calculator, it's still doable. But for number 2, I'm going to show you how to use cross products, which will work the same every single time for every proportion. So number 2, v over 12 equals 10 over 2. Cross products say that if two ratios form a proportion, their cross products have to be the same. So that means that 2 times v, whatever v is, has to be the same as 12 times 10. Okay, I basically just need to treat this as an equation. This is an equation now that I'm going to solve. So first, I'm going to leave the 2v alone, and I'm going to multiply 12 times 10 and get 120. So that means 2 times v needs to equal 120. So what is v? In this case, we would just divide out the 2, and that would give us v equals 60. So basically, I've just multiplied 12 times 10 and then divided it by the coefficient of the variable, which is 2. 120 divided by 2 gets me 60. Number 3, got a word problem here. Amelia is driving to visit a friend who lives 270 miles away. She drives the first 180 miles in 2.5 hours. At this rate, so assuming that she drives the same speed, same average speed, how long will it take her to get to her friend's house? I'm going to do this by setting up a proportion. Okay, I can use a proportion that says, okay, and again, this is important when it says at this rate, because the problem is telling me she is traveling, assume that she is traveling the same speed, the same average speed throughout this trip. I can say that, okay, 180 miles took her 2.5 hours. So 270 miles is going to take her X amount of hours, and I just need to figure out what X is. I'm going to solve number 3 with cross products. Trying to use method number 1 is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. Still doable if you have a calculator, but I'm going to use cross products here. So the cross products say that 180 times x, my diagonal 180 times x, needs to be the same as the diagonal of 270 times 2.5. Let's solve this equation and we'll have our solution. So I'm not going to do anything with 180x. First, I need to do 270 times 2.5. That gives me 675. And then the last step of this equation would be to divide both sides by 180. That's going to give me x equals 3.75 hours. Okay, if you're really feeling fancy, we can convert this into hours and minutes if we want. 3.75 is 3 3/4. So you could also say that this is 3 hours and 45 minutes. You don't necessarily have to do that. I would consider either answer as correct. So the solution here, it would take her 3 hours and 45 minutes to make this 270-mile trip.